lecture that will be given by HG Bhima Dasa. Like to pick up a Bhagavad Gita book or Srimad Bhagavatam, which is very auspicious to buy this upcoming month, a complete set of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is also available now. Please feel free to pick one as you go. Bhima Prabhu is one of the senior disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and currently he is actually from St. Louis. He is born and brought up here in St. Louis, but he became a devotee in 1973 in that age, and later he moved to India. He is in Mumbai. He is settled in Mumbai. And his good wife, Jaladana Mataji, is also Prabhupada's disciple, and in fact she is a niece of Srila Prabhupada. So it's very fortunate for us to have Bhima Prabhu here along with us, and he's going to speak few words on Krishna Katha. So kindly enjoy your next program. Thank you.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Priyaraja Pracharya Ashtotar Kashishnath Abhay Charanarvindam Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Kori Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai ISKCON Devaki Samstapakacharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shivasadi Gaur Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Navadvipan Ki Jai Ganga Maya Jamuna Ki Jai Shrimati Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Shrimati Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Undalitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Kuroti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Yakripa Taraham Bande Shri Guru Digataranam Manandamadavam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram. Hare Krishna. Last week we celebrated Janmashtami, but we're celebrating again tonight. And we welcome everyone to this second Janmashtami celebration. Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma chame divyam evam yogati tattvataha Tattva deham puna janma naiti mamati sona arjuna. So, Krishna is saying that if one understands my janma, birth, and my karma, my activities, as divyam, transcendental, Janma karma chame vidya. A lot of times people misunderstand Krishna. And they think that Krishna's activities are ordinary. Especially his pastimes with the gopis. But Krishna's pastimes or Krishna's lila, they're completely transcendental. But in order to understand that, there's a process. One has to go through a purification. As long as we are in the conception that I am this body, I am the enjoyer of this body, then we can't understand the pastimes of Krishna, especially his pastimes in Vrindavan. But if we can understand, the benefit is, as Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita, Tattva deham puna janma. One doesn't have to take birth again in this material world. We understand from Bhagavad Gita what are the real problems of life. Many times people feel the problem of life is that we have to, earn money. And this is an effort. Karmic activities that bear some result. People are interested very much in this. But actually, our efforts in karmic activities or activities that bring some result, they won't solve what Bhagavad Gita says is the real problems. Krishna explains the real problems in life are janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi, drupa, doshana, darshanam. Birth, death, old age, and disease. These are the real problems of life. Now, even if you go to St. Louis University, Washington University, University of Missouri of St. Louis, or wherever, any university, there's no course there about how to solve these problems. But yet, Krishna says you can solve this problem. birth, death, old age, and disease. Simply by understanding his transcendental nature of his activities and transcendental nature of his birth. Actually, we learn from Bhagavad Gita that we're not this body. We're the eternal spirit soul. We may be born in a particular country. Someone is born in Russia, someone is born in America, someone is born in India. And therefore we have an Indian body, or American body, or Russian body. But that's not who we are. In our next birth, someone can be born in any other country. It's just like saying, because I have a blue shirt on, I'm a blue shirt. No. But regardless of what kind of shirt I have on, I'm someone else. In the same way, regardless of where we have taken our birth, regardless of what kind of body we have, we're the eternal spirit soul. Only the Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Hamyate hamyamane sharire, that when the body dies, the soul never dies. The soul's eternal. We live forever. Only we change bodies. So the problem with that is, our nature is that we are eternal. But even though we're eternal, we're experiencing this problem of death, and that is that we change bodies. So this no one wants to die, no one wants to grow old, but we don't have a solution for that in our educational system. But Krishna gives a solution, and that is understanding the transcendental nature of his activities and his birth. Then we can solve this problem of birth, death, old age, and disease. And to be able to understand the transcendental nature of Krishna's activity and Krishna's birth, we need to purify our consciousness. Our consciousness is now polluted. Although we're eternal spirit souls, somehow or another we think that we're this body. And we identify with being American or Indian or any type of body. But our original nature is that we're spiritual. But when we come in contact with the material world, we take on many different designations. Just like the rainwater. When the rainwater comes from the sky, it's pure. But when it mixes up with the mud, it becomes polluted, it becomes dirty. In the same way, in our original consciousness, we are pure spirit, full of knowledge and full of bliss. But when we come in contact with the material world and the material nature, we take on so many different false identifications. And due to these false identifications, people are antagonistic towards one another. Right? Just like right now, we have a war that's going on between Russia and Ukraine. So the people in Ukraine, they're thinking we're Ukrainians, and the people in Russia are thinking we're Russians. But actually, they're both spirit souls. They're eternal spirit souls. The same people that are fighting, when they die, one can be born in Russia and the other one can be born in Ukraine. They can switch places. But due to contact with this material world and strong influence the material world has over us, we're just a very insignificant, small spiritual particle. Therefore, we become bewildered. But we can remove that bewilderment very easily. It's not difficult at all. All we have to do is chant the holy name of the Lord. And God has so many names. If you think that Rama or Krishna are sectarian, then you can chant any name of God that you know. Any bona fide name of God, you can chant and get the same result. But in this age that we live in, which is called the age of Kali, or the age of quarrel, for a very less reason, people quarrel with each other. Srila Prabhupada gives the example that in the year 1970, I believe, there was a war with China in India. Border dispute. It's still going on today, so many years later, in Ladakh. But that land is not very, it's just rocks, it's just mountains. It's still they're quarreling over the border. So that's the age that we live in, the age of quarrel. But in this age of quarrel, there's a very easy process to obtain self-realization, to understand our real identity as eternal spirit souls, and that is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So when Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita 5,000 years ago on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, I see many Indian people in the crowd. How many of you been to Kurukshetra? Raise your hand. I did. Few. So there, Krishna, just before the battle of Kurukshetra, he spoke the Bhagavad Gita 5,000 years ago. And the main point of that Bhagavad that he made, the essence of the Gita, is to always think of God and become a devotee of God. And he says, surrender unto me, I will protect you from all sinful reactions. But the problem is, although Krishna said surrender, people didn't surrender. Right? They found it difficult to surrender to God. So, as Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago, and if you see the deities on the left are Krishna and Balaram. They appeared 5,000 years ago. They so kindly appeared to come here to the Gandhi Center tonight. But because people didn't surrender, Krishna came again. He came in the form of Lord Chaitanya, just little over 500 years ago in Bengal. And just as Balaram appeared with Krishna, Lord Nityananda, he also appeared with Lord Chaitanya. So when Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago, he killed so many demons. The Agasur, Aristasur, Trinasur, so many demons. Kamsa. But when Lord Chaitanya appeared just 500 years ago, it was Krishna himself. His mission was not to kill the demons, but to kill the demoniac mentality. And what is that demoniac mentality? The demoniac mentality is that I can enjoy in this, I am the enjoyer. I am the controller. And I can benefit everyone. In other words, we're trying to be competitors with God. But we will never be successful because our position is that we should cooperate with the enjoyment of God. God is the enjoyer. God is the supreme controller. He's the owner of everyone. And He is our best friend. God's our best friend. Lord Chaitanya appeared specifically to show everyone how to become a devotee, how to develop devotion within the heart. And the main process to do that is by this sankirtan, the chanting of the holy name of God. Very simple, anyone can do it. Even a child can do it, it's not difficult. Even in the Bible it says, glorify the names of God with drums and cymbals. It's in the Bible. In every scripture, it talks about the holy name of God. By taking to this chanting of the holy name of the Lord, which is called Sankirtan. Kirtan means to chant, and Sankirtan means when a whole group comes together and chants the name of God. One can experience transcendental ecstasy. So we invite everyone to just add this to your life, this chanting. I know everyone's busy. Everyone has their activities that they do, so many things. But just add this one thing. And we have a center at 3926 Lindell. Every Sunday at 5 o'clock we come together and we chant the Lord's holy name with drums and cymbals and harmonium. And we invite everyone to come and chant. Sometimes on Friday night or Saturday night we go down to Delmar, right in front of the Chuck Berry statue, and we chant the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, When I first joined the temple in 1973, we used to go down every day in front of Stixburg and Fuller, downtown. At that time, downtown, there was a lot of people, downtown St. Louis. Now, if you go downtown St. Louis, you can hardly find anybody. But in those days, there were a lot of people on the street, and we would go down right early in the morning, about 9 o'clock, and we'd chant up to 12 o'clock, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and people would take magazines. Another place we used to chant was in Forest Park, what they call the World Fair Pavilion. In those days, they used to call it the Hippie Hill, because the hippies used to go down there and do what they do. So, you can chant anywhere. There's no hard and fast rules for chanting, but it's very pleasurable and ecstatic. And we invite everyone to please come to our center and chant or join with us in Nagar Sankirtan or on the street Sankirtan in Delmar and chant the holy name. And if you just chant every day for a month, even 15, 20 minutes, at the end of 1 month, you'll see a total change in your consciousness. And what will that change be? The change will be that you'll understand more about your eternal nature as an eternal spirit soul. As it is, this body is not going to last forever. Although we think it is, but it's not. So by chanting the holy name, we prepare ourselves for taking on a spiritual body and entering into the spiritual world. So I thank you very much for listening. And again, I invite you to come into the center or chant the holy name even in your own house whenever you get time. And you'll see for yourself that you'll obtain a much more peaceful consciousness. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Okay, we can take a question or two if anybody has one. This is Krishna Balaram on the left, and they appeared 5,000 years ago. And sometimes people say we worship idols, but we don't worship idols, we worship Krishna. Krishna can come in any form, and he also can appear in the form of the deity. this whole material world is the energy of Krishna. You know, if you analyze what this actually is, this cable, right? If you go down, and you'll see that it's made of atoms, right? And atoms are made of protons, neutrons, right? And they revolve, the protons and the neutrons, they revolve around the nucleus of the atom, right? So how can they revolve unless there's space? So they require space. This looks like a solid table to us, but actually it's composed of atoms that are moving, and they require space. If you heat it up, the atoms move a little faster. So everything is not what it appears to us to be, because our senses, we get perception about what things are by our senses, but our senses are limited. Our senses are not perfect. So perceiving what everything is from our limited senses will give us only limited knowledge. We need to receive knowledge from the unlimited, and the Lord is unlimited. And He can appear in unlimited forms. And this sense, this whole energy that we see in this material world is the energy of God. So God can come in whatever form that He likes. He can also come in the form of a deity. In the Bible it talks about how God came in the form of a burning bush to Moses and gave him the 10 Commandments. So if God can come in the form of a burning bush, why can He not come in the form of a deity? Krishna Balaram. And on the right side is Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. God is completely spiritual. It's not that you can see God with your material eyes, but God is very kind, and He comes in the form of the deity so that we can render service to Him. We can cook for Him. We can make garlands for Him. God actually is a person. God is not something impersonal. And bhakti means to develop a relationship with God. And this is what we're missing in our lives, is that relationship. We're looking for that relationship. And we're not finding it here in this material world. So bhakti, our devotional service, the 9 processes are to reawaken that lost relationship that we have with God. And that can be done very easily in this age by chanting His holy name. And in order to facilitate that, we can also worship the form of God. God's name, God's form, God's pastime, they're all transcendental, divyam. And if we understand it, then at the end of this life, we can go back home, back to the spiritual world, and not have to return here, which is a place of birth, death, old age, and disease. Hare Krishna. Thank you.